We are live. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday afternoon in August. August 7th today is.
7th.
August 7th. It feels like August 700
It
this
does.
year. It does. I am live here with my co host, Jen Lewis, and then, of course, my good friend, Shawn Lee. Say hello, Shawn.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? They ain't ready for it. Bring the pain, money. What up, though?
You forgot to rock that, Sean. I was waiting.
And rock that, money. That's right.
Rock that money. We can always count on Shawn for energy, which is what I need today more than anything
Amen.
else. We need some energy today. So Shawn is here to answer any questions that you have. And hopefully we don't have any technical problems. We got through it last week without too many problems. If we are freezing up, looks like it got a little bit of freezing up going on here, but hopefully it'll work itself out. I keep going. There's in OBS, there's a little yellow and green square, and it's going back and forth, and haven't had that in a while. So we're looking okay now, but we're gonna hopefully be all right. So Shawn, tell us a little bit about yourself. If they've never met you, tell us everything we need to know about Shawn Lee.
Okay, let me see if I can squeeze this in. I am a black man from Detroit, Michigan. Just in case people couldn't tell. You know. Seriously though, photographer for about full-time photographer for about 16, 17 years
Mm-hmm.
now. I have started from the bottom and kind of innovated. The story behind me is that I've kind of innovated a model for photographing seniors in business and making money as a business in Detroit. And we did it in a way that kind of transcended environment, economic condition, or whatever the case may be. So it's a little relevant now, even with pandemic going on. And it was relevant a few years ago when Detroit went through bankruptcy, right? So, of course, that is
Mm-hmm.
my story. Since then, I love people. I'm probably a better people person than I am a photographer, right? And I think I'm a pretty okay, decent photographer, right? And so it is what causes me to be able to get business and actually kind of weave my way into different markets of business, right? Which is also relevant, I think, in a sense. And I'm an advocate for people, right? So I tout diversity, right, throughout the industry of photography. And that's not just opportunity for black people or people who look like me.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity means everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll end with this saying. I always say this at diversity meeting when we've had it at Imaging USA,
Mm-hmm.
and that is that diversity is not the exclusion of white people. It is
Mm-hmm.
the inclusion of everybody,
Mm.
right? And so what it does is it makes everybody have to work hard to be considerate of
Mm.
everybody, right? And so that. I think that in a nutshell kind of describes Shawn Lee. Money rock that.
I love it. Rock
That
that.
yeah, that definitely describes you, Shawn, and I'm very proud of the work that you've done over the last few years, and you have created a very, very warm environment for everybody who wants to be part of your environment. And I think it's, just so great what you've done. And these have been some tough times the last few months,
Yeah.
and we're going to get past it, and we're going to come out the other side stronger. Three of us are Gen Xers, so we are strong together, and we know
Yeah.
that. And I think that for our generation, I don't think that's talked about enough.
Yeah.
But I think that that's an important part of who we are. It's who's made us who we are, and you're doing a great job. But you're also a really great photographer, and you're going to talk to us a little bit about photography. And for those of you that are out here listening, Shawn is an open book. You can ask him questions. If you're shy, you can always contact him later. But we want to see your questions here today, and
Absolutely.
we want to hear from you. So at any point, put your questions in that chat box. Jen's going to be monitoring it as well as hanging out with us today. So,
Listen, can I say this first before we dive in? I do want to say this. This is very important, right? Like Shawn Lee only exists because people over the years have invested, right, in Shawn. And I want to say that you two are two of those people, right? And so I want to let everybody know that, when we talk about going across the spectrum and looking to be colorblind and looking to love people because they're people, not just because they're a certain color, there are people that invest in you. They look past your faults, right? They see a need, right? They see they do stuff when it's not popular to do it, right? And I want to say that Jason gave me my first opportunity to speak on a big stage at WPPI when he headed that up. And I didn't know who Jason was. Jason didn't know who I was, but he gave me the opportunity, right? And so I always thank him for that. I always thank him. I want to do that publicly, and I want to do that on this platform because it's important, I think, for people to acknowledge people, right? Jen is my heart. I love Jay Louie. Jay Louie, that is her rap name. Jay Louie is
Jay
her rap
Louis.
name. Jen Lewis is the sweetest person that you will ever meet, and she came to Rock That and spoke, and she gave of herself. And in the beginning of Rock That, the conference that we do, it was really important to me to curate because it wasn't enough for me to have good photographers just teaching in front of people. I wanted to make sure we had people that had the heart of folk and wanted to teach and invest in people and pour into people. And Jen Lewis, gave her heart and poured into people like nothing else. She sat at the bar. We talked all night long. We had the greatest time, and I love Jen Lewis. Her heart is amazing. I will always love her. Homegirl, from right now to forever, money. Rock that. I don't care how big. I don't care how big you get, yo. You always gonna be Jay Louie, all right? Remember that. So when you walk across that stage and you receive that next huge big award, if you hear somebody yelling from the back, Jay Louie, know that that's Shawn Lee, right? You know what I mean? In the back, clapping for you, right? I love you. I appreciate you both. Thank you.
Love you too, Shawn. And I know I speak for Jason too when I tell you, thank you for letting us be a part of what you're doing. I mean, just being a small part of giving back and, the Rock That family, they're my family. They are, those people have my heart too. And I can't imagine, I mean, this is a tough year not being up in Detroit with everybody and,
Mm.
after being up there the last few years. So, we really appreciate you letting us be a small part of helping bridge that gap, with the diversity and everything too. So and letting us be the what'd you call us last time? The salt and your pepper.
Rock that. Well, it's all good.
I'm a lot of salt. Lots of salt up
Yeah,
there.
Jason has more than I do, but
So Sean,
we
why
still love
don't
him. So.
so for those people who don't know about Rock That, and I'm out of my own curiosity, what is I mean, these are again tough times with meeting in person, but walk us through exactly what Rock That is and what's happening.
Well, Rock That, first of all, is my term for making life happen. And so there are a lot of people who are interested in photography.
Hmm.
Those that look like me, different nationalities. It doesn't matter who you are. Not only just cultural as far as color of skin, but also age-wise. Right? There are a lot of older folk who are interested in photography but scared to ask questions. So Rock That is my term for making life happen. And so we started a conference to bring in the best of the best speakers, best of the best presenters, best of the best photographers to be able to invest in people who want to get better at photography and possibly do it as a career, right? Culturally, my people didn't really have access to a professional level of instruction, right? They would just go buy cameras and do photography, put that thing on the evil green button called automatic, and just go do their thing, right? But to now have a network of professionals that can teach you about business, and not only teach you but help you about business, teach you about skill set, right? How to work your camera, and to have a society, a community of people surrounding you when you get ready to get that first real paying gig, right? Somebody you can call, lean on, borrow equipment from, whatever that means, was extremely important to me. So we started this movement of that and reaching out and with my connections and people that I know, bringing them in and people giving up themselves just to invest in people. It's really a people thing, right? So rock that. And so We've been at it for about 5, 6 years now. And so community is growing, but what's more important than that is that people are starting to get introduced to professionalism, and knowing what that means, knowing what that looks like, and can actually start to take care of their homes as a result of it. I can proudly say that we have had, to my knowledge, four people go full time as
Hmm.
photographers, right? So you talk
Wow.
about folk going from jobs or folk going from hobbies to actually making a living doing photography. And not only that, we've had people have significant doors opened up to them just for having access to people like you all, right?
Hmm.
Folk being able to shoot for pro teams, right? Because of having access to like a Terrell Lloyd, people raising their bottom line, their sales average because of people like Jen Lewis, right? People shooting teenagers and seniors and going into markets they never thought they could. People watch this, not even just photography driven, overcoming things like I hate talking to people. Shawn, I don't know how I can photograph and talk to them at the same time. Well, it takes time for people to overcome stuff like that. It takes a community to invest. And so that's what we've concentrated on building. And so, rock that. Money, thank you.
All right. So, do you have an idea? I know that unfortunately you had a postpone slash maybe cancel this year's conference. Do you have an idea of when you're thinking of doing the next one, or we're just going to put things on hold for now?
So we early on, I think we were looking at in August, September, possibly October, and early on we kind of said we know that that wasn't going to work. There was a lot of moving parts, variables. So we canceled it this year.
Okay.
It is set for June 17th through 19th, 2021.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
2021. And so I will be talking to you all about it. Of course, Jen comes and speaks. I think this year coming up is going to be a grand year in that not only are we looking at different nationalities of people, everybody, we're looking at a younger generation. So there is a
Mm-hmm.
targeted effort in Generation Z, that investment. And so we have
Okay.
sponsors that are specifically giving just for that, to make sure we have young people in the place that have access to pros like you.
And I gotta, shout out to a couple of sponsors who've really stepped up with you guys, Miller's Lab and
Yeah.
17 Hats, and there's other vendors too, but those are the two that I'm closest to, have really invested with you guys, and it is amazing the amount of support that they've given you, and I can't say enough about both of those organizations.
Oh man, I don't know if you want me to speak on it, but you know I can run my mouth, Jason.
You go, you go.
We know.
So I mean, Miller's. Let me tell you the significance to like a Miller's Lab. So 2015, 2016 when we started this, it was really important to me. I tell you, people are important to me, right? That black people culturally were so jilted, um, that it's hard to get them to invest in themselves, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
hard to get them to spend money, pay money for stuff they absolutely needed, at least in my circles, right? That
mm-hmm.
was the case. So we set out to say, listen, we want to do high level education from some amazing speakers, right? We want to do it at great hotel, great educational facilities. We want to do stuff like motor coaches going downtown for photo walks
Mm-hmm.
and all of that stuff. We wanted an opening reception. We wanted a closing party. We wanted to spare no expense. And then I said to Miller's Lab, I said, listen, I want to do this for free. So anybody who wants to come to this conference, 3-day high-level conference, we want to do it free, no cost to anybody. Stupid, crazy idea. Like, really, really, Shawn? They said absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no idea of how it was going to turn out. Miller stepped up and just, they gave and paid for everything.
Yep.
And we were able to do a conference of around 300 people
Yep.
for free. Just, it was amazing, right?
It was.
It was a jump start to something, to an investment in people. And it was amazing. So big ups to Miller's, right?
Yeah.
And more recently, 17 Hats and Donovan and Amanda. What I love is honesty. I love transparency. And Donovan called me with everything jumping off of this culture war going on in our nation. And Donovan called me and was like, Shawn, I don't know what to do. I'm a white dude, and people coming at me. He's like, but I don't want to make a statement just to make a statement. What should I say? We talked about it a little bit, and they did what they did, and it worked out. And so he came back to me and said, Shawn, we don't want anybody talking about us. This is not about 17 hats. This is not about what we do. He says we want to give money specifically for the cause of
Hmm.
educating people about what's going on in our nation right now. And that's just, it was just like, wow, really?
Hmm.
Okay, well then we're gonna do that, money. Let's go. Let's
Cool.
go. Oh, big up, big up,
Yeah, no,
big
and
up.
they're very smart people, Sean and Donovan and Amanda, and I'm looking forward to what's happening, and hopefully we can all be together next year in
Yes.
June in Detroit, right?
Did you, money.
I
Come
mean,
on,
I
sponsor.
gotta get myself a Coney.
Money.
This is-
Money. Come on, man.
yes. All
I like
right,
that.
Jen. So since you
Yes.
are the premier high school senior photographer, I'm gonna let you tee Sean up here to talk about what he does. What he does.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so one of the things I've known Shawn for a long time now, and one of the things that I love about what Shawn does that I can't seem to get the same thing out of my kids that he does, but the expressions and getting them into the shoot, like Jason was saying earlier, Shawn, you're so high energy and you get everybody going and stuff. And I love like when you're getting them to like scream and yell and do things in the studio, like I try to do that with my girls, and they're like, "You want me to what?" Like I can't scream. I posted one the other day. I thought of you because I got one of my girl that's in the Pittsburgh Steelers jersey to like try to do a mean face, and she just busted up laughing. It was the greatest thing ever. And that photo's going in the album, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. But I love how you get the expressions and how you get the kids involved, and I also want you to talk about like how you bring the families in and everybody to get everybody, make it like a party. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about that and talk, a little bit about what makes you
Absolutely.
different.
Absolutely. I love people, and what I found with high school seniors is that when I started out, I was photographing a lot of boys, and they could care less, right? A lot of boys could care less about high school senior photos, whatever, and so it becomes a process. It becomes a from the initial phone consultation. So how I am with you all right here that rock that like money, let's do it, let's bring the pain. I think it should start early. So when you engage a family or a teen, you get as excited about their stuff, if not more excited about their stuff than they do. And I think what that does is plant a seed for them to be excited during their session. And what you capture is who they are. The reason I bring in families, and I'm a backtrack a little bit, is because I also want to capture the relationship between a high school senior who's getting ready to leave for college and parents and aunties or grandmother, right? It speaks to memories. And what I found out is that when people see themselves how they act at home, captured on screen, on film, or digital media, whatever it is that you use, when they see that encapsulized forever, they will buy more of it, right? So a lot of people think I just like to go in and have fun and all of that stuff, but really it's a way to sell more product. When people see themselves and a grandmother sees her relationship with her only granddaughter that's getting ready to leave college, and you capture that moment of a kiss on the forehead or that weird awkward smirk, oh my God! In a sales session, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything but show them the stuff, and they tell me everything that they want. I just keep writing and writing and writing. Uh, right, rock that. But
Yeah.
it's about engaging people, having a blast, and talking to them before they come in. So I do things like unlimited clothes, right? So I don't do poses. I do unlimited clothes, unlimited poses, unlimited clothing changes in an hour session, right? And people love that. They bring all of their clothes, right? What high school girl doesn't have a ton of clothes? So they come and they bring them, and they got carloads of clothes. We don't use them all, but the freedom to be able to use that stuff, to think that they can use it and include it in their options, gives them the freedom to be as free as they want to in their favorite stuff. And so with me yelling rock at in a studio or on location, and them getting hype about their own shoot, oh my God, it's gold. I don't care what you say. I could be shooting with an iPhone or a phone. I'm still gonna sell just as much, right? So rock that. I hope that spoke to what your question. Or do I need to speak on anything else, Jen?
But Jen, before you say anything else, as far as the clothing is concerned, it's an interesting thing that. So I don't know if I don't think I've had a chance to tell you. I shot my second high school senior session last week, and I took some kids out that I think are going to wind up being my influencer team. But they showed up with a bunch of clothes, and I have never seen kids or anyone change clothes so fast in a car in my life. Like I'd be like, "Hey, can you go change?" And they'd be like, and it'd be like, "Whoop." And all of a sudden, and I was like, "Did you go change already?" They're like, "Oh yeah, I did that." I was like, "Holy cow!" I could not believe how fast these kids could change their clothes. It was insane, and I haven't had any chance to tell anyone that. But like I was used to like wedding clients where we would like go to a bar, we'd have a drink, they'd go change their clothes, and then we go out and shoot again. But these kids are like, whoop. So anyway,
That's how that goes. How are you enjoying photographing high school seniors, man?
I think Jen has been enjoying it a lot, and I kind of stumbled on it by accident because I was doing some volunteer work, and I think she's surprised that I'm enjoying it. But I was doing some volunteer work for an organization that's connected to my kid's school, and I volunteered to do some high school senior stuff, and I wound up shooting a couple of kids that were just these amazing kids. But after I was like, this was so much fun. It was so creative. I could do whatever I want. I could ask them to do whatever I wanted. They would do it. They would listen to me. They actually do listen. They don't have any attitudes, and this is great. And she was like, "Oh no, I think this guy's going to turn into a monster." And so anyway, but I've been really enjoying it a lot, and there was no market for it. I always was intrigued by it in New York, and there was no market for it there. So, and I would have loved to do it, back in the day when I was in the city. But here in St. Louis, gosh, it is a monstrous market. I mean, there's plenty of money for anybody who wants to make money here. So, why not? Anyway, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, man. It's good stuff, man. That's the one thing. And so I sat up under Jen one day, and I sat in a couple of her classes, and I got my highest sale after taking her class and doing her business right after the sale, because I wasn't doing it that way. I was just doing packages and all of that stuff, and I had a decent sales average then, but it skyrocketed after I took after Jen's way of doing things, right? I think I did my first like $5,000 sale, and it kind of made sense. Okay, we can do this, right? I used to get pricing over the phone. I don't do pricing over the phone anymore. Everybody has to come in for a consultation. And what I find is that the only way that this works for me in any market is that people have to believe in me, right, or trust me. So I come in and they feel comfortable. All of that is a part of people wanting to pay money for things. And if you can bring out a relationship, if they feel like they can trust you with the things that they really care about, especially the relationships between a dad and a daughter, or a dad and a son, right, or that family member and that senior in their high school career, if you could properly tell that story for the high school senior, well, all they care about is featuring their stuff, which is cool, right? If we can accomplish that, then I think the floodgates are open. When I started, I didn't have money for backdrops. I didn't have money. I didn't have a studio, right? That stuff was expensive. I think a 10 by 20 backdrop back then was like $700. And to buy one, and then if you can't shoot that every year, folks look at you like you're crazy. So I started having kids bring in their own stuff. And I don't know what kid doesn't love their iPhone, doesn't love their Air Jordans, doesn't love their ripped jeans, right? Their Beats headphones, their Gazelle glasses, right? Their style, hair,
Yeah.
right? The special ring that mom gave them, right? And so finding creative ways to feature that stuff, I think is what kind of put me over the top. Along with, telling them, hey, your shoes are the hottest shoes on the planet, money. I ain't never seen them like that. Did you say them was custom? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. And so that's part of that unique approach to seniors. It became less about the pose and it became more about the experience. You know,
Hmm.
we provide. And in the studio, when I shoot in the studio, I shoot tethered. And what that means is I'm connected to a huge screen on a
Hmm.
television. And I found that something amazing happens, Jason, and Jen, when you photograph tethered to a screen. When I started doing it, they said, well, you should do it because, you want to check your composition. That's the reason I started shooting tethered back in the day. What I found was is that grandmother, mom, family members would huddle around that screen. Seniors right there in the studio, and as I'm shooting and the imagery is coming up, they're reacting to the screen.
Hmm.
So it became a tool to engage family, right, and decision makers, and it became part of the experience of that high school senior's career, right, throughout the year. So it became less of a photography session and more of a part of the end of their high school senior career. This was like part of a party, right? I would also have a table. I'll have the seniors' favorite snacks. So if those are Snickers bars, I will go and buy Snickers bars and Frito Lays and Coca-Cola, whatever it is, it's the favorite stuff, and it becomes more custom to the individual, right? We play their favorite music through the system,
Hmm.
so they're allowed Bluetooth um, through the system, and we bump their music. It is the most amazing stuff, and then at any time, anybody in the family can take over DJing. So grandmother will take over, and she will DJ, and all of a sudden you hear, "I know you wanna be with me," right?
Why are
You
you
get some
stopping? Keep
music come
going.
on, no, no, no. But I refuse to go, right? And then a teenager will be like, "Oh, Grandma, come on! I don't want to hear none of that." And there's this friendly, wonderful banter that starts to take place
Hmm.
in the studio, and it makes for an amazing experience, makes for an amazing time,
Hmm.
and some pretty cool photographs that are custom to that family. And then when we bring them back after they've had that experience, and we do the reveal slash sell session, and we do the slideshow to music, and they see all of this imagery that speaks to who they are, right? Not just good, but speaks to who they are, but serves every family member.
Hmm.
They don't want to let any of it go,
Hmm.
right? And that's the beautiful thing in that. If you can really serve people, they will spend money, and then they won't have any remorse about spending it, right? Those will go up on walls that will live forever somewhere in people's homes. And so I think that's the part of that we've kind of mastered that helps us to do what we do.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're a little unique also in that you seem very comfortable in the studio in a studio setting versus where a lot of high school senior sessions and I've seen your work. Your work inside the studio is definitely on point. And is there anything to that that differentiates you that you do it in the studio and can you speak to that at all?
Sure. I sure would. I love shooting outdoors too, but what
Mm-hmm.
made me start in the studio is that's what I had access at the time with time. I rented time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so at the time, I don't know. I think when I started, people were used to senior photos being studio shots, at least
Okay.
where I was
Yeah.
anyway, right? So and in my mind, it was always the studio houses, right? You go in, you have backdrops, you shoot. That's how my senior photos were done.
Sure.
Y'all don't want to see my senior photo. That was hideous. You can't go there anymore. And so that's kind of how I started. And what I did was to make it unique. Is that I didn't have money for different backdrops and things of that nature. So I would do depth of field, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
would do really cool stuff. So the football player with the football, whatever's closest to the lens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like you know showing right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger, right? Much farther away. It's farther. We take the focus point, put it on, say, a hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
A face would be right here. Face would be slightly out of focus. Hand sharp and in focus. So imagine a football player. That's a football holding right there. It became a simple way for me to process, to get some really cool shots, very easy, but people wanted it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if that's the ring if that's the super, out here they say Super Bowl, the high school championship ring, right, that you got, we would simply put that right there in the frame, focus on it, focus point, and it became easy. So and I shoot, you can take a white background, and depending on how you shoot, you can turn that background. It could be white, it could be gray, or it could be black.
Mm.
And so I started to focus on the individual. I started to focus on things like facial expressions, relationships as opposed to a pose and a background. And what I found is that people were taken by those a lot more, a lot more. And it was an easy way for me to shoot and to be able to fit a variety into a session, if that makes sense.
Well, and it does, and I think you kind of touched on something that has been
Yep.
relevant to me recently, in that when you master your craft and you're comfortable in the setting where you're shooting, you said like I focus on the personality of the kid because I'm not worrying about everything else that's going on. So you understand the lighting, you understand the background, you understand what you want to do, and then everything kind of falls away, right? So like in the shoots that I've been going out and doing, I'm so rusty, it's ridiculous. So I'm still like focusing on things like, am I getting the exposure right? Is my f-stop right? What is my ISO? Like I'm still fumbling around my camera a little bit. And so when you're taking that away, when the right hand has to think, right, the left hand isn't being creative. So that's been the issue. And I think you hit on an important part, like you really focusing because you've dialed in exactly what you want to do. And now you can focus on the thing that's important, which makes photographers so great, is the personality and bringing out that uniqueness of it. And when the grandma's sitting behind there, it's like, yes, that's the smile I want. That's the thing that I'm looking for. Yeah.
That's so cool that you said that, and maybe I need to say this because I tell people this all the time. Pros make it look easy because they have spent the time doing it over and over and over and over again, right? What I love about photography is that as much as it is creative, it is as equally technical. You have to have an engineering mindset. I think photographers could run the country. Man, photographers are some of the smartest people on the planet, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so in order to be able to do what I need to do with focusing on people, it was important for me to get it down, right, packed. So what effect is it going to do? Am I going to do one light or two light, right? You have to know lighting. You have to meter it, right? Am I going to shoot this at 2.8 or 5.6? And at what point is it going to fall away, right? Is the light going to fall away to give me the gray that I want? Do I want a darker gray? Do I want a lighter gray, right? Do I want a white background? Is this going to be a 3-light setup? All of that stuff needs to be done beforehand, right? And you need to prepare. I always tell students that you want to contact your client, you want to get to know them, you want to know if the senior girl that you're going to be photographing, whether she feels comfortable in front of a camera or whether she doesn't, because you will have to adjust as the pro. It's your job to hold their hand and to know what you're doing, and to even, watch this, embarrass yourself at your own expense to make them feel more comfortable if you have to, right? I've tripped over a few planks a few times to be like, God, dog it, Sean, you know you shouldn't have ate that ham sandwich last night. It was too much, right? And what happens is people start laughing and they start to feel comfortable, right? And that's important. And so knowing what you're doing, at least having a base. I tell people you don't have to become the pro right away in order to start, but know what you're doing. Have a base down. I like to shoot. My starting point is 1/125th of a second, f8, ISO 100, right? I will meter my lights to that. I shoot 6-foot octa, right, or 2 6-foot octas, and I'll flood an area with light, and that is my base. So I know that if I mess up somewhere, I can always go back to my base of what I want to shoot. I like to shoot 24 to 70, right? I shoot fast, right? That's another thing that I do because I talk a lot. I want them to move. It's an hour session. I'm not doing a 4-hour session. We're not doing a 3-hour session. Money, I'm giving you an hour session so I get a lot in a little bit so I can maximize time because it's just me, right? And so you got to prep. People want to go out here. They want to become really good really fast. But in order to do that, you've got to work your behind off behind the scenes and make sure you know what you're doing, right? And that's it, man. I figured out real quick is it's one thing to be able to shoot good. It's another thing to be able to charge for what you do, right? Um, and you gotta have two different mindsets,
Yeah.
right? You have to approach it two different ways. You gotta have a business mind. You have to be a great photographer, and you need to be able to make a living from it, right? If you're
Hmm.
going to do this. Other than that, it becomes an expensive hobby. Rock that.
It is. And, I was watching the news today and you're talking about the unemployment report. And, not to bring it to a bad note, but they were saying how, unemployment is going down, but they're starting to see a lot of these businesses who were not doing well pre-pandemic are starting to fall away from the wayside, and those unemployment jobs are now becoming permanent. And I'm starting to see that in the photography world as well. Those of people who were, not doing well to begin with are now struggling. However, on a positive note, I do think that those people who can weather through this are now starting to, for lack of better words, rock that out there, because people still need photography. It's just we have to find the way to do it, and this is the same thing as always. So putting a business plan in place, figuring out how you want to sell, but you got to get out there and figure out how you want to do it to begin with. The only thing that I think everyone that's doing that we're talking about right now is the sales for high school seniors in particular. The sales is the most important part. There are thousands upon tens of thousands probably of high school senior photographers that are out there that are happy to charge $500 for a session, and or maybe charge $150 and then just do their wish packages and hope they buy another $400. That is not the way to do it. Selling to them in an emotional process, not in a bad way, is just walking them through the process of selling them their images. Otherwise, they don't know what they want until we show it to them. And that's the difference between the hobbyist and the professional. And that's how these people are staying in business and, keep going like that. So you have a unique way that you do it that diversifies you and separates you from everybody else, working in the studio, making sure that you're providing a real personal experience for your clients, and then really digging into, the stuff that makes them who they are, which is all that high school seniors are, like the custom shoes and the hats and the sports gear and the dresses and all of that stuff. Like that stuff is so important to them. If you can recognize that, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Thank you, Jason. It means a lot. I'm gonna tell you that I think I was presented with this when I started kind of this process. I was always told, well, you can't do it that way because you either have one or the other, right? If you're going to do a cookie cutter type of setup, right, and bring people through it, then it's going to look a certain way, and the photos won't be as good, and maybe you'll make more money, and it'll be volume. And my question was, well, no, why can't we do a custom photo for every person that comes through the scene, and they look good for everybody, and still make a lot of money? There's a way to do that, and process that, and make it custom to each individual, and streamline it on your end, so that, because I'm one person, right? It's very difficult to scale, right? When you are one person, right? So the key becomes streamlining the process so that it makes you money.
Yeah. Well, let's
it makes you money, and so.
Well, let's go there. So when we're all starting out, or in some cases, and I've talked to Jen about this ad nauseum, as I'm working to rebuild my businesses now, I have made the decision that I want no help. I don't want to hire an assistant, no employees. I've had assistants before. I've had full-time employees. Zero. I'm doing all of this myself. I'm not hiring anyone. This is a personal decision, mainly because I don't think you know how to hire someone until you've been in business a few years and you know what's going on. And you're at a point, and everything out there in our world, in the entrepreneur world, tells us hire people for the things that you don't want to do. And until your business is making that kind of money, you shouldn't. But the entrepreneurs are out there like saying you'll get there faster, you get there faster. But I can tell you for a fact that I don't know what to tell somebody to do. Sure, I'm telling Jen, like, I've been writing, like yesterday, I spent the entire day writing social media posts for 30 days out. I could hire somebody to do that. At this point, I have no idea what messaging is going to work, what messaging is going to work. How can I hire somebody else to do that? So in your business, it's just you. Can you talk to me a little bit about, that streamlining process and what's been successful for you?
So I started out, I needed to make money, bottom line, right? Most people get into photography because they love it. It's a hobby, all of that stuff, right? I needed to make money. I had to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at two things. I looked at school photography. I looked at high school seniors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about high school seniors. And so at the time, I looked at the stats, and 90%, right? I would go, if I went to a school, 100 high school seniors, statistics said 90% of them were going to get high school senior photos. That made sense. And when I started, the national average was $800 per high school senior. So I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer, right? And so I used to have 50, 60, 70 images in a gallery. I used to shoot for 2 hours. I used to post-produce everything. It took too long to get from high school senior to senior where you could actually make any significant money. So looking at it from a business standpoint, I needed to streamline. So galleries went to 20 images, right? Didn't matter. The galleries went to 20 images. I would post-produce in a certain amount of time. I did some research and found this out. I average now between 4 and 5 hours per high school senior. So let's say 5 hours high school senior. That's initial phone call, consult, where they come in and do it. We're talking session, right, for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We're talking time in post-production. We're talking final delivery of product, right? Everything out the door, 5 hours for a senior. When I did the math on that, for an 8-hour workday, right, for 30 days is 250 hours, right? Well, if you divide that by 5, it's 50 seniors. So 50 seniors with an average of $3,000, $150,000 in a month's time. It started me to.
I like that math.
Right? It started me to thinking different. I can make $150K in a month's time, which leaves me time to do other stuff. So then it was like, oh, wow, this makes sense. So it made me stick to a timeline, if that makes sense. Or at
It
least
does.
try to be as close to it as possible, because not only was it, during the hour session, we're going to get the hottest shots on the planet. Don't worry. We got an hour to get the hottest shots on the planet. But that also means that I need to make sure I spend that time preparing, making sure that I am prepared, that they have everything that they need, that they have a great experience through it, that they can link their music to the system easy, all of that stuff. I already have a plan of how I'm going to post-produce, so we want the least amount of post-production as possible, right? Go in, pick the images that are going to go in their gallery, because most people don't choose beyond 20, 25 images. You hit them with too much. It's too much. They're going to take too long. They're not going to choose.
Choice paralysis is real.
Right. And so it became about that process and sticking to that process for senior. The faster in and out, and them having a wonderful experience. And I like, oh my God, Shawn, this was amazing, right? I want that reaction
every time.
Every time, in less than 5 hours. And then you make sure the packaging is top. So when they pick it up, they have the beautiful packaging. And oh my God, it's wrapped with the chevron on the tissue paper. Oh my God, right? Stuff, you maximize everything so that when you hand it off to them, they are happy. They are tweeting about it. They are posting about it. All of that stuff, and you're off to the next high school senior, right? And so it's about, for the photographer, I think, as much process as it is making sure the imagery is phenomenal,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Not only that, I can't tell you the amount of times I've been invited to homes for Thanksgiving and Christmas. People, right? They love you, right? When you serve people well, oh my goodness. What happens is not only do you get money from them, they recommend you to everybody. Like everybody, people calling me, like old ladies calling me, do you do boudoir shoots? No, ma'am. No, I do not do boudoir shoots. I am so sorry. They told me you could. You was gonna make me feel comfortable. Um, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Right? It just opens up all of these doors um, for you when you make sure you take care of people, as well as it works out for you if you take the time to actually think it through, write it down, streamline it. Right. So
Yeah.
group of
Take the
five is good.
time. Yeah. Take the time, write it down, and you got to tweak it. And again, it becomes down to once the streamline is in process. And I remember, when I was shooting a lot more, it was writing down what the shoot day looks like, writing down what the next days are going to be, and then allow for failure. So allow for, oh, okay, well, that didn't work very well, or I need to. That at the time I had assistants. We would sit down and we talk about what worked, what didn't work, what can we do to make this process go quicker. Usually it was my assistant saying, please stop shooting so much. But I never would feel bad. I would never feel bad about shooting too much. And it would be their job to get rid of the stuff that wasn't any good. But, streamlining that process and then making sure that you leave room in there to tweak, and then, you'll get there. And as long as you understand that you're always going to, because everything's constantly changing, right? It's a constant moving target every single day. But I am a really true believer in, working out your workflows and everything without hiring. There's so much pressure out there to, gosh, some of the services that you can get out there now are so cheap. It's almost free, but at the same time, when you're letting something go, you're not understanding what's happening, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, definitely on my soapbox there on that for sure. Anything else you want to ask, Jen?
I just want to kind of summarize everything that has been discussed today. I think goes back, especially speaking to Sean's success, is about building relationships. And I'm talking about everything from his, work with diversity to the Rock That conference to working with the seniors and being so successful. People, when we're talking about clients, photography clients, and I know I've said this on the show multiple times, Prep Point, but, you know,
Uh
Uh-oh.
this with people,
oh.
and it's people
There
they
she is.
know, like, and trust. Did I?
Oh,
Hear
Jen
me okay?
Jen Lewis needs to fire her internet provider.
Yeah, your flip phone went out.
Oh, yep. Oh,
Hey,
I think
um,
I think what I heard you talking about was relationships, right?
yeah.
And if we could speak to that, I think that what I would not be where I am if it had not been for relationships with people. So really looking to open up doors, and I think you mentioned what I say all the time. Let me make sure I get this right, Jen. Is that um, people don't do business with you. People do business with you because they like you, they trust you, or they relate to you in some way, shape, or form, right? Um,
yeah,
People do business with people that they like. You don't even have to necessarily be super good at something, but if people trust you, they want to use you, right? And there's this thing that I always say is to be woven into the fabric of your community or the people that you service or provide for. Be woven into that fabric. Let them see you all the time. The other word that I want to use is be authentic in it as
yeah,
well, right? Be the person who
yeah,
is they always see you doing something in the community for the community because you love that community, right? And whatever that is, you will always be relevant and you will always have business and it will present itself in the most unique ways, right? Um, and I know we're talking about high school seniors here, but I think it's relevant for not only high school seniors, right, but across the board. If you have relationships with principals and school districts and people who sit on boards, right, who run schools, and they always see you helping in that capacity. If they see you mentoring kids or doing speeches towards kids or career days, right? Those people, they will automatically be drawn to you because of the work that you're already doing in those communities, and you will always have business. People want to use those folk that they trust and believe are doing good within their circles, right? That is extremely important. I don't care what the economy looks like. I don't care what's lacking. I don't care what even goes away in a community, right? Oh my God, my only source of income is getting ready to go away. Something can transcend, something can change, where you will be able to make money based on the relationships that you maintain. So that's that, and that's the reason that I am here today. Money, rock that.
All right, so for those of you out there who are listening or are listening to the replays, Shawn is also available as a one-on-one coach on the group website. And Shawn, I'm going to tee you up a little bit. You offer, kind of consulting and coaching to help get your senior business going. Tell us, I've hired you for a session. Tell me what I'm going to learn from you. Putting you on the spot a little bit, but tell me what I'm going to learn from you.
So I do sessions where we go through the whole thing. So depending on whether a person is strong in photography and they just want to learn some business concepts, we will go through things like that. What does a consult look like on the phone? We'll bring them into the studio. I'll take them through how I actually, or whether it's on a phone consultation, I'll take them through how I actually engage a client and get them to buy a sell session. All of these are components that they will need to know. Shooting tether, what does that look like? What does it mean, and why do you do it? Anything from metering light and understanding lighting, right, to make your photography stronger, whether we're doing a one light setup, a two light setup, whether we're doing a depth of field setup, whether we're shooting fast, what does that mean? What does that look like? Why do you use the equipment that you use? Why do you choose the backgrounds that you choose? Why do you have seniors make facial expressions? All of those things that kind of help you wrap your head around how you're going to execute what you want to execute. We certainly go through, right? And it could be everything. It's targeted or it's the whole spiel.
Awesome. Cool. I'm ready to buy a session.
Rock that money. They not ready for it. So, just so everybody knows, the sales average now is around $3,500, right?
Wow.
So right around $3,500 for a sales average. And even in a pandemic, right, you can do that. And I want to say this to everybody. Just because everybody has stopped working and things have stopped doesn't mean that people still don't have budget, right?
Well, and I think on the high school side, in my experience with working with these kids recently and talking to their parents and, other friends, listen, we could be making less money, but we want to take care of our kids and we want to give them the same experiences. We've had to tighten our belts here in this house, and, we're still trying to provide experiences because we don't want to rob our kids of that. And senior year of high school, man, that is a special time. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you're going, what you're doing. And so I think there's even more opportunity, if not for people to spend more money. So I think, if you are struggling out there, there are parents who are going to spend less money and maybe they tighten their belts. So you may need to shoot a couple more sessions. I know that, when I spoke to Jen just recently, she said, I'm out there, doing a little more marketing than I normally do. And, you may have to hustle a little bit more, but, it is what it is.
Rock that money. I love y'all.
Well, on that note, I think we're gonna wrap things up here a little bit. We could chat for hours, and I do want to thank those of you who are listening, who come into these broadcasts later on, because this is YouTube, and God knows where you came from. You could have came from a Jake Paul video, and now you're listening to us. Probably not Jake Paul, but maybe Vanessa Joy or Sal Sincata. maybe one of those people. But we're glad that you made it this far. And, again, both Shawn and Jen are available on the group if you're looking for coaching. And we'd love for you to leave a comment here. And we hope that you're enjoying these things. Shawn, I can't thank you enough for providing and helping, sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. And I can't wait to give you a big hug next year in June.
Rock that, money. I love you. I love y'all. Jason, Jen, money, I ain't ready for it. Go to the group, yo. Money.
All right.
Two P's. Two P's.
Two P's. Two P's.
You know what I'm saying? Rock that, yo. There's somebody right now typing in group with 1 P. Shame on you. 2 P's.
All right, I can't go any further than that. All right, hang on a second, you guys. I'm going to end the stream and we can chat for a little bit more. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. Peace. Rock that.